We live in a world of artifices, of lies, of simulations. The movie The Matrix comes to mind. We are minds of the code, or people of the book, as some call it. We are immersed in human constructs to such a degree that we cannot even use words without deference and reference to an institutionalized application. Take for as an example the word ego. Most of us cannot think it or say it without connecting it to Freud or some Buddhist or Christian application that evokes in us a negative sensation in regards to it. Same with the term pride. Language has now been hijacked by the institution, and religion and spirituality has been institutionalized along with philosophy, along with language. We must use the correct terms in the correct manner. In other words, in a manner in agreement with the institution's usage of the term. The authorities, the experts, the modern day shamans appropriate the word, taking away its utility. They rip it off. They rip it out of the hands of the common man, forcing him, if he is to use the word, to abide by their rules. In this way, they minimize our conception of the term. This reminds me of Orwell and doublespeak. As people of the book, by the book, people of the code, we must refer to the dictionary or some famous application of the concept the word alludes to. Another example is the term modern, or its many spin-offs like modernity, modernization, and so on. The term is now associated with a single definition dealing with a philosophical position. You cannot use the word anymore as a vehicle of expressing your own positions on what is most current, because that's what the word modern denotes. It denotes within a social context, the most current or the most fashionable. You must always defer to the popular application. Wikipedia defines it, the word modern, in this way. Modernity typically refers to a post-traditional, post-medieval historical period, one marked by the move from feudalism to agrarianism, towards capitalism, industrialization, secularization, rationalization, the nation state and its constituent institutions and forms of surveillance. Charles Pierre Baudelaire is credited with coining the term modernity, modernité, to designate the fleeting, ephemeral experience of life in an urban metropolis, and the responsibility art has to capture that experience. Conceptual modernity relates to the modern era and to modernism, but forms a distinct concept. That's what Wikipedia says. Anytime you dare to use the term, you must use it in this prescribed context. You cannot use it, as I said, to simply denote the current, the immediate in regards to society, economics, man as a whole. The term is now completely associated with that definition, and anytime you dare to use the term, you must defer to this definition. I once tried to use the Greek term autopoiesis, and was attacked because my conclusions were not in agreement with Varela's and Mutarana's. The term meaning to create, to self-create, self-creation, is now associated in the minds of those living by the code, in the matrix, with these two authorities. And any usage of the term must also agree with their positions. See, this is how, by controlling language, one can control the minds of millions, billions of mindless drones who have no capacity to use language creatively, artistically, but who take the words literally and can only abide by their strict application boxed in by how the official narrative has appropriated and applied these terms. See, in the example of autopoiesis, it's a Greek term made up of two concepts: auto, self, and pieces, to create. But for anybody who does not speak Greek, the term is now associated with the first instance which the mind came into contact with it. So if Varela and Mutarana's thesis is the first time they came across this term, then in their mind this concept is forever linked to their conclusions. This is how academic institutionalized thinking leads to a limitation of consciousness. The method is so powerful, so effective in limiting human consciousness that it can now flip reality on its head. The artifice becomes the authentic. What is nihilistic becomes positive, whereas the one negating the negation of the world must wear the scarlet lettering of nihilist. Let us use the pop cultural reference point of the movie The Matrix again to clarify. Imagine people living within a world of codes, artificial reality, Baudelaire's simulations. For them, this negation of their reality would be considered, for them, the negation of reality would be considered a positive. Imagine now someone who has escaped the matrices, has gone beyond them, and he now returns to expose to these masses the artificiality they live within. Would he not be considered negative? Would he not be labeled a nihilist? See, for the common man, the negation of nature is a positive because it shelters him, it protects him, it offers him a relief. It's an emotional, egotistical, self-serving judgment call. By negating reality, nature, and its amoral, indifferent processes, this mind offers itself a comfort. And in order to complete this comfort, he must be totally immersed in the artifice, in the sheltering environment, in the bubble world he lives in. In other words, in the matrix, within which he feels safe. His life has meaning. He feels wanted. He feels like he has value, and so on. Anybody who negates this is, of course, a nihilist for him, because anybody who challenges his delusions is a negative force in regards to him. This is how the term nihilism is hijacked by the system. To negate the negative is to appear before those living alive as a destroyer, a nihilistic corrupter of their peace and quiet. The question you should ask yourself, in opposition to the message offered in the movie, is why free such minds from a prison they prefer and cannot live outside of? Why liberate those addicted to the premises that bind them? And what moral code urges us to even consider the prospect? Are we Christians here? Are we here to offer salvation to the sinner? Are we humanists, wanting to save mankind from a world we despise, turning the world into a problem which we must solve, expressing our dissatisfaction with how the world actually is by claiming that the world should be healed, should be corrected, as it were? Beware of the words and those dependent on their stringent, institutionalized usage. Beware of children of the book, by the book, children living in the code, by the code. Language is an art form. Words are brushstrokes, hues of color. They have a definition, but they are not associated with a particular worldview. How one uses a color is up to him. That somebody else used the particular color in a particular way does not mean that this color is now forever associated with this application. Ego, therefore, is not a negative term, and it is not forever linked to Freudian positions. All ego means is self. Nihilism means to annul, from the term nil. What one annuls can be anything. If one annuls the world as it is, then he can be called a nihilist. Does the world have meaning, or does man create meaning, or seeks it, or does man seek it out under every phenomenon he perceives? Is nature moral or amoral? If so, then according to some, nature is nihilistic. The positive, the real is now turned into a negative. See how words can flip concepts on their head? See how not understanding what language is can result in living in a world of man, thinking that this world of man is the world at large. To negate human artifices is also an act of negation. To one imprisoned in the terminology, the institutionalization, and deferential submission, one who negates this human world would be a nihilist, thusly reversing the application. It is preferable to live in an artificial world, in a controlled environment. This is why we prefer to live within social constructs. This is why many become addicted to role-playing games, to computer realities. This is why we always debate about the world, about reality, only within the context of human artifices such as justice, morality, love, goodness, and badness. We prefer that because no matter how negative things become, we can always reboot. The lines are distinct. There's no ambiguity between phenomena. Everything is categorized into absolutes. Everything is absolutely good, absolutely evil. Everything is divided into love and hate. There's no shady area. We prefer that. We prefer that because it's easy, it's simple. And because it's easy and it's simple, it's popular. And the more popular it gets, the more it creates its own reality. The more members get seduced by certain concepts, the more it becomes seductive to others. They too want to partake. They want to immerse themselves within the same artifices. They want to belong. They want to feel safe within the group. This is how the popular becomes the more real. This is how quantity becomes a standard by which we measure what is more and what is less probable. What is more marketable becomes automatically what is more valuable. We don't try to see why it is more marketable, why the majority prefers it, what is seductive about it, why the many like one concept and dislike another. All we want to know is what is popular, what has market value, what sells. The world is now reduced to the lowest common denominator because that's what being popular entails. It entails incorporating within premises a majority by seducing their shared commonality, and this is usually the lowest part of it, the most primal, the most primitive part of it. And this is what modern life is about. This is what dumbing down is about. This is how nihilism becomes seductive to the average. It becomes appealing because it deals with a fundamental, ingrained existential anxiety, a fear it feeds into hedonism, offering that momentary release a value, making it into a transcendental principle, erasing its original purpose and making it virtuous. Once the lowest common denominator is found, and appealing to it has become technology, an art form, of seduction, of mass seduction. And when the idea that popular populist opinion should uh, overrule what is quality, that is quantity overruling quantity, then we develop what we call the modern world, the modern nihilistic world. And because it's based on a shared lie, a shared underlying fear, anxiety, then another rule must be applied, one which restricts exposing the fallacy, one which makes playing along, pretending into another social virtue, part of the social contract. To be civilized, in other words, is to never contradict this shared delusion, to not only not to contradict it, but to buy into it, to abide by it, to reinforce it. In this way, we create the artificial world we live in, the lie of civilization, the political correctness, the hypocrisy of civility, the hypocrisy and the lies of civilization. Notice the reaction anytime anybody tries to analyze what morality is, or to deconstruct what love is, why it evolved, to question the notion that appearances don't matter, or that they don't matter only when it applies to humans, that appearances are superficial, that beauty is skin deep, that love is a transcendental force and not a survival tool, akin to hate and envy, and that emotions can either be destructive or constructive if they are permitted free reign. And this includes love as well. Notice the reaction, because once you start questioning or asking questions about the shared delusion, then this is considered an affront. The common man cannot understand why anybody would dare to do so, would think to do so. So he must explain the phenomenon as again using emotion. It must be a form of hatred or sickness or an illness, or the person daring to do so must be some kind of monster. Shame, peer pressure, uh, popular appeal, popularity, the democratic ethos all come into play here.